Hey everybody, Dan Buffa at your service. I'm back. The truck cast is not a common thing anymore. It's just, when you want to get in the truck and talk to a bunch of people. See, I've been recording a pod the last few months for one very special person. So when you're talking to one person, you're like, all right, this is more personal. But then when you do a pod and anybody can watch it, maybe you don't have everything to say that's worth listening to. But back here, Buffa's Buffet is the blog. Dan Buffa is the voice. That's me. I've been writing and talking about movies and sports and everything in between for about 15 years on the internet. Been podding about it for the last few months. Again, when there's something to say, I kind of jump on here. When there's nothing to really say, nobody wants to sit here and watch me go, But it's Thursday. It's the end of April. We're almost a third of the way through the year. That is nuts. But Cardinals fans are delighted. The team is playing well. They're beating up on the Pirates 3-0 as we speak. TV show fans are delighted because Euphoria, the crazy HBO show, is back and wooing viewers with its assorted craziness involving Jacob Elordi and Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney. Movie fans are delighted this week that Devil Wears Prada 2 comes out. The only thing about that movie is that it wasn't screened for critics, and so there's two reasons why there's two things that come out of that. You're like, number one, either it's not a good movie and they're trying to hide it, which with this kind of movie you're not going to be able to do. So it's most likely number two, where it's just kind of doesn't need to be screened. The movie kind of speaks for itself. It's most likely fan service for the first movie, and then really a continuation of the first film's story. Getting Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci back together to kind of bicker about fashion and journalism and how everything's changed. Will I see it in theaters? I would say there's a 50-50 shot. It kind of depends on if I have anybody to go with. That's not one I go see by myself. Some movies you got to have a co-pilot with, someone that you actually want to see a movie with, and then the movie kind of fills in the rest of the blanks. But that came out. But yeah, I don't know. Not much is, I tell you, all the enjoyments of life are kind of like sometimes pushed around by all the adulting that needs to take place. Like for me, working a couple different jobs, finding time in the evening to see my dog, to see other people, and then kind of having the cycle of everything kind of go in and out. But you try to have some enjoyment in there. I try to jump on here and do a little truck pod, even if it's not going to be the longest truck pod. And even if this is like take number 4, because, I started it 3 times, and, where you get out of the gate of a podcast and you're talking but you're not really completely buying into or liking the words that are coming out of your mouth, you kind of hit stop and you go, let's start again and let's not do it. Because, for the last few months, I have done a special pod for a special person, and that takes precedence over any mass pod. Sorry, readers and viewers, but certain people are going to take a little bit of importance over just me sitting in front of here yapping about a movie, yapping about a baseball game or a TV show, which is what people come to me for. And so if I'm not doing that today, I can come in here and see what's on my mind. What is on my mind? I have no idea. It's the end of April. The year is flying by. I am in the process of trying to bring my pit bull to my apartment, which is not as hard as I thought it was. So that's kind of happening. But it's a slow thing of getting shot records and getting a letter from your doctor saying, hey, this guy needs his dog. And then trying to get that going. And then kind of thinking when you're divorced and you're in your own place and you're trying to think, well, is my pit bull going to like this apartment? And I know everybody's like, he'll get used to it. He's with you. I get that. But all that's in my head right now. So it just seems like every day life is kind of shifting a little bit. A little bit of real talk here. Because sometimes you get on here and you don't really want to just talk about a movie or a sports team or anything else. You want to just kind of dish without getting any specifics, but it's just, life can shift from day to day. And I think the strongest people can hold on. The ones that are not kind of fall by the wayside or just trip up and maybe give up momentarily. But, it seems like this week my mind is preoccupied with, going to the doctors and then getting that letter from my dog, and now putting together in my head the logistics of having the dog at the apartment. Is he going to bark? He's usually not a barker, but if he gets provoked, Leroy will bark. And then I have my little bitty, skinny, quiet, more quiet than Freddie cat named Frank, who likes to just come out in the open, even if Leroy wants to go chase him around. He's fearless. It's kind of a little bit of dumb, but he's also just fearless. And so that's all racing through my head. And then, of course, I have my regular job, Crescent, and I have my Uber drive. I drive plumbing during the day. I drive people at night. And, of course, this is the time of the day, 12:30-ish, where I'm kind of starting to think, man, how much do I want to drive tonight? Do I want to drive? Do I just want to stay home? Then you think about your bills that are due, and, again, it's that whole thing that goes into the mind. Anybody that does a podcast, any sports guy, movie guy, they have the same kind of things running through their head, but they won't discuss it. So why not I get on here and just level with it? I am in the parking lot, and in the last week, we have been populated by a bunch of young girls who I think are going to this place over here, but they're coming over to our parking lot for their lunch. So it's making our parking lot seem a lot more crowded than it usually is. So that's something, as I'm looking to my right and going, man, anybody's going to walk up on my truck and go, what are you doing? It's like, I'm talking to my phone. I'm having a conversation. But, yeah, getting back to the opening topics, the Cardinals are beating the Pirates right now 3-0. They could sweep the entire 4-game series after being swept in the previous series. So that would be kind of a nice little change of pace. This is what this team is going to do all year. You're not going to be able to predict or define the St. Louis Cardinals in 2026 just because they have a very young team that apparently has some pop. They can hit home runs. They can give them up too. Their pitching staff's a little flawed. They don't hit with runners in scoring position. They do a lot of things right, a lot of things wrong, and that's what you get when you have young players. So there's going to be winning streaks. Like right now, they're a few games above 500. So that's kind of a surprise. But they could also, after winning 4 in a row, they could lose 3 in a row. So that's what you're going to get with them. Not going to completely get into Euphoria on HBO yet, but I will say that it's about as crazy as the first 2 seasons. The first 2 episodes that I have watched are just nuts. High school, post-high school, college, what are you going to do with your life? Kind of wasteland, kind of drugs infused. It's kind of crazy with a bunch of young stars that people will know, but I'm not sure if you're not on the bandwagon already, if you're going to want to jump on it, because it's an intense show. It triggers a lot of stuff about, teen abandonment, teen drug use, the communication between parents and their kids as they get older. Eric Dane, the late Eric Dane, does have scenes shot. I've already seen one of them where even when he was battling ALS, he completed his roles for the series. And so, yeah, in the first couple episodes, it's definitely a Euphoria. It's still got that craziness to it that I think is almost too much for some people. But yes, Devil Wears Prada 2, the sequel, the long-awaited sequel, probably didn't get screened because it doesn't need it. Sometimes the studios know what they got. They can project the box office, and they're not gonna like spend the money on a bunch of country-wide screenings if they think that they already have the money made at the box office. So reviews be damned. It can get like a B or a C average score, and it's going to make a lot of money. Look at the Michael Jackson movie, got ripped apart by critics and dominated at the box office. Sometimes critics are just not necessary. The movie the reception and the performance kind of writes itself. But other than that, having to get back to doing some plumbing, keeping this short, just kind of a check-in pod. Again, I usually, in the last few months, I've done a pod every day for a certain somebody. They know who they are. And so that's kind of cut down on these pods. But sometimes, there's not much to say to the masses. But when there is, I'll come in and say it to you. Keep on reading me when the stuff does go up at Buffa's Buffet. dailydoseofbuffa.substack.com. You can Google me and all my stuff will come up. And be good out there and try to put a lasso around this year, because it is flying by at the speed of a bullet train as we get ready to enter May. It's crazy. All right, ladies, Dan Buffa getting back to his plumbing.